All right. Looks like the channel is receiving content. We're gonna give it a few minutes. We're gonna start exactly 3:01. 3:01. Looks like the YouTube channel, is receiving your content. Want to make sure it's nice and healthy. It's ready. It's good to go. All right. 3:01. We will start the show. Okie dokie. Hopefully everyone is doing okay today. And we're gonna start. We're gonna start pretty soon. Awesome. Okay, looks like YouTube is live. No one is watching as of yet, which is okay. And it's 3:01, so let's start. All right. So hey guys, welcome back. This is Bernardo from the BTNHD and the server room. Yes, a weekly show for you guys going over server stuff. We've been doing a lot of deployment, dealing with MDT, SCCM. Wow. Whew. Episode 13 was an epic failure, but I stood after hours and I got a lot of stuff working behind the scenes for you guys. And I pushed out videos showing you guys how I dealt with it after hours. Hopefully you guys enjoy those videos. And today I'm stepping back a little bit with the deployment, and I have a client that wants me to look into backing up virtual infrastructures, right? That's the number one thing in episode 13 that I lack was backing up. And don't get me wrong, I don't do it to my 9-to-5 job. My 9-to-5 job, I'm in my work mode, and when I'm inside my work mode, it's like I follow everything A through Z, never skip a letter. When I'm within my lab, I normally just forget about things. I just want stuff to work within my lab. But with this lab, I have to take care of it for you guys because this is one of those things that I need to have it healthy each week. And I had a particular client that came up to me, and he wanted me to figure out some ways of how to back up some your virtual machines, your virtual environment. So I started messing around with Azure because they do have Azure, and I also started dealing with Veeam. Veeam actually gives you a free backup and replication edition. The free version is pretty cool, but it doesn't give you the replication part because you have to purchase it. A lot of this stuff you have to buy. So I am going to. It is a PowerPoint. There's always a PowerPoint on this stuff. And on the bottom of the description, take me out of here. At the bottom of the description, you guys are going to see a link that's going to point to this guy right here. And it's just a presentation of today, which I'm going to show you how to configure Azure to back up to the cloud. It's kind of iffy because Microsoft advertised that it's capable of, backing up your virtual machines up to the cloud, VMware. That's not really the case. It works, but sometimes it doesn't work. And it's been a lot of problems. I Googled a lot of things, and I'm going to show you guys the kind of problems that I received. I think the Microsoft Azure Backup Server works well with Hyper-V because, again, it's Microsoft. So, yeah. And then I also gave you a registry hack to disable the secure authentication. I'm going to explain what this is. It's not, nothing harmful to your machine. It's just when you're dealing with hypervisors like ESXi, when you need to authorize it because the port with your hypervisor, your VMware hypervisor deals with 443. And when you're connecting your Azure Backup Server to your VMware server, especially an ESXi, it needs to have that certificate downloaded and installed locally within your Azure Backup Server. It doesn't really work well when you're dealing with the ESXi version. It does work well if you're dealing with the VMware vCenter or vSphere because it has like the CA root, which I'm going to show you guys. So, get out of that. I'm going to close that. And also, at the very bottom, there's a link That's going to take you to a nice survey. And I just want to get some feedback from you guys. I got 9 of you guys here, and got a couple people already chatting. And the survey basically is, what do you use for your backup to back up your virtual infrastructure? I know back then in the past, I've used ghettovsb.ch. Veeam Backup and Replication is a great tool. Windows Server Backup. I use Windows Server Backup within my infrastructure because I'm actually running a Hyper-V system. And when I mean my virtual environment is my 9-to-5 job. We have a Hyper-V cluster, and I use Windows Server Backup because it works well. It's great. And then you have Azure Backup Server. So if you guys use one of these options, I definitely want to know what you guys use. If you use something else, hey, leave it at the other. I would definitely want to know what you use in your environment because I'm still researching for this client. And the 2 software that I've been playing around is Azure because that's what they have. And also I've been using Veeam Backup. Okay, so if you have some time, take some time, click on that link, go to the link, answer that questions really quick. And, you know, towards the end of the show, we go over the tally and see how many of you guys use these particular software. So I'm going to start the PowerPoint. And as always, make sure you guys join the BTNHD newsletter. I didn't send a newsletter this week. I got a little lazy. Sorry. And as always, I placed the link at the bottom of the description. So all these 3 links at the bottom of the description, you guys could just check it out. So let's start. So Azure Server Backup is one option. Problem is that you have to have an Azure account. You have to have the subscription. That's going to cost you money, right? So first thing you need to do, I'm installing Azure within a Server 2016 infrastructure system. You have to make sure you have a healthy DNS server. Even though I have a healthy DNS server, I just added the DNS server addresses to the particular server because just to make sure I won't have any problems. Okay. Also, within your Azure Backup Server, you have to also make sure you have a static IP. It doesn't really like a dynamic IP address. Yeah, it's weird. But if you have a static IP address, you won't have any problems. I didn't have any problems when I had the dynamic IP address assigned to it, but still, make sure you have a static IP address and your DNS server is nice and healthy. You need to install .NET framework, so go to Server Management, go to Manage, Add Roles and Features, go to Next, Next, hit Next, Next again, and on Features, just make sure you have .NET Framework 3.5 because that's going to error out if you don't have it, so that the installation needs that. Then for 2016, you need to specify the alternative source path for the .NET Framework, so I clicked on that. It was on a D, which the D is the CD-ROM drive, sources, SXS. SXS. Yeah. Press OK and it installs, and then you're good to go. Now, you can reboot this machine, and once you reboot, you want to download the Azure Backup. Now, the Azure Backup installation files are free. Now, the only way that you could take advantage of it if you want to push it up to the cloud is if you have an Azure subscription. Don't get me wrong, you could download the files, which are free. You can install the Azure Backup Server with no license. You don't need to attach a license to it. It installs with no problem. But if you really want to take advantage of it and utilize it with, on the cloud, you have to have an Azure server. You have to have an Azure subscription to it. So you double click on that installation file. What's going to happen is that installation file is going to read all these bin files. You got 7 bin files, and it's going to extract the files, installation files to a particular location. By default, it's going to drop it in the C drive. So I hit Next, extract, boom, execute the setup file, hit Finish. You're going to get a nice little window, dialog box to start the installation. Click on Microsoft Azure Backup Setup. And it's going to download and install all the prerequisites that it needs. You get the nice little welcome. Click on Next. You want to check. And once everything goes well, that Next button is going to be highlighted. So click on Next again. Now, if you have SQL Server within your infrastructure, you can actually use an existing instance and attach it to that. I didn't have it with this box, so I just said check and install. and it checked it, and I received an error. So it was missing one of the prerequisites. Now it installs it automatically for you, but you need to do is once it installs, you need to restart and then restart the application again. So once I did the restart and that feature was installed, the Hyper-V Powershell, I went back into the C drive. Now don't go back into the folder that has the installation stuff that you downloaded online. Okay, go inside where it extracts this, because you need to double click on that. You don't want to extract it again. So once you double click on that setup file, you go back again. Next, actually, you get to the part that you have the check again, and just hit next. And eventually, if everything passes, you get to this point here. Now, I left all the default as the C drive, but best practice is to remove the DPM, which DPM stands for Data Protection Management, which it looks like Data Protection Management had their own console, and Azure Backup Server is utilizing the DPN features. Really weird. I've never actually used DPN. So this is my first time using Azure Backup Server. Okay, so what Azure actually do is it replicates your virtual environment locally, and then it pushes it up to the cloud. Yeah. Now, again, because the SQL installation is going to need a password to run the services behind the scenes, it's recommended that you do the Microsoft updates. I didn't push out the updates, and a nice little summary install. It starts installing. Now this process takes forever. This is the reason why I didn't do it live with you guys, because I just don't want to waste an hour installing stuff for you. So you're gonna get prompted for a proxy. I didn't have a proxy, so I left it as the default as unchecked. Click on next. It's gonna check for the PowerShell and the .NET. Everything was available. Green check, click next, and then it's going to start initializing the Microsoft Azure Recovery Services, and then click on next. Now, the Vault credentials is something that you need to go inside your Azure subscription to retrieve, which I retrieved the file here. So if you don't know where to retrieve that, if you have Azure, what you need to do is you want to go inside your recovery. So I'm going to see if I can zoom in for you guys. So you want to go log into your Azure, and you want to go into Recovery Services and Vault. And then from here, you just click on Add. And once you click on Add, you want to enter the name, your subscription. If you have a resource group already, you can use an existing one. If not, you could create a new one, and you pick your location. Now, I already created one, which is VMware Backup. And once you create your vault, your recovery service vault, or your RSV, you will go inside properties, and within properties, you will see right here, backup credentials. You download that file. Now, this particular file will only last, I believe, 24 or 12 hours. Once that expires, it won't work anymore. Okay? So let's get out of that. Let's close that. All right. So back to this. So once you download the file, you browse to it, you attach it, it's going to authenticate itself. And once it authenticates, you're going to see this. You're going to see the subscription ID identifier, the region, and the name of your backup vault. Awesome. Now, if you're really good with passwords and make sure you remember it, it wants you to enter a passphrase, which is 16 characters. I picked the generate the passphrase, and then I browsed the location for the file, and I placed it on the desktop. And then once you do that, it's going to register within your Microsoft Azure Backup, which I'm going to show you guys where that stuff is located within the Azure portal. And then it's going to continue installing the SQL Server. And installs 2016 SP1. So I don't really remember what the requirements were, but you probably could get away with 2014. And again, I make sure that you guys back up that text file. That text file will contain the 16-character passphrase. When I was testing this out, I had to rebuild my virtual machine, and my virtual machine still had the same name that I used, and it was trying to find that text file. So I had to destroy my virtual machine, recreate it again with a new name, and add it to the Active Directory, and recreate the text file with the passphrase. And when everything is good, you're going to get this. You're going to close. It's going to want you to restart because the data protection management services is going to need a restart for it to work properly. And the cool thing is, if you know PowerShell, it's going to give you a Microsoft Azure Backup Server PowerShell console, which is pretty cool. I haven't played with this as much. I've been focused more with the console part of Azure Backup. So restarting, once you restart, you log in, and this is it. Which I'm going to actually, you can bypass this because if you want to add a server, you go to Management, you go to Add, and this is where I was testing it out because, again, this video, its discussion is all about on cloud versus on premises. To me, I like to do both. I like to have a local backup of my virtual machines within tape or a network share, and then you have it on the cloud. So if God forbid something happens to that tape, you have your network share. If something happens to your network share and your backup tape, you have the cloud. If something happens to the cloud services, meaning that your internet goes down and your tapes go down and your network share goes down, you're pretty screwed. But there's always the fourth option, which I like. That is having a backup tape off-site. You can have it with another company. If you have different little organizations within your company, you could drop it inside another office. Or I've seen other people drop their backup tapes at Iron Mountain, which they're very popular with tapes, or at the bank. I've seen that as well. You could drop your backup tapes with all your important information at the bank at a safety deposit box. Just drop it in there. So if those three options, your on-premise, your on-cloud, or your network share backup is all down, you could just go to your off-site backup and grab that to retrieve whatever or backup or recover whatever you need to do. Now, again, I was testing out Azure for the VMware server. They advertised that it's going to work, but it doesn't really work, not as well. So you click on that and you give your server the server name on the IP address. Again, it's running an SSL port 443, and you give your credentials. And you add it, and once you click next and add, it's going to say success, but eventually it's going to try to attempt the connection. And it's going to error out because, again, if you don't have a certificate assigned to your ESXi and the machine that your Azure Server Backup is installed into doesn't have the certificate installed, it's going to error out. So the way you could do it is you go inside your ESXi homepage, click on the certificate error, and then view certificate and install the certificate, which I'm showing you right now. You want to go into the local machine, click next, and then you want to place that certificate inside the trusted root certification authorities, and click on next, finish, and it imports. Restart your machine, and then go back inside the Azure Backup Server, and then refresh it. It should say okay. Now, for me, it didn't say okay because the certificate did not work. It only works, that method of downloading the certificate and then importing it inside that trusted section right here. Yep, the trusted root certification authority only works if you're attaching a VMware, vCenter, vSphere infrastructure within your Azure Backup. That's the only way it would work, okay? Because it has a CA root certificate. That will work. The way that I got it to work within VMware is that registry hack that I gave you guys within that zip file. If you double click on that, it bypasses the authentication of the SSL and it just adds it automatically. So that's the workaround that I had. Okay, so we are going to go, I'm going to close that up, and let's go inside here. So we're going to click on our Azure. We got a couple of machines here. We have Azure, we have a vSphere. The vSphere is the one that it's a mother load because I actually have VM right here, and I was testing out the BJ tests. I actually backed up one of my virtual machines locally inside this REFS formatted partition drive, which is pretty cool. I gave it 200 gigs, and it looks like it worked pretty well. Close that up. Okay, dokie. It's loading up. And one of the things I really like about Veeam is if it's free. Everyone loves free stuff, especially if it works. But the problem is, if you want to have your Veeam stuff up to the cloud, you have to pay. You have to get a license to unlock those features. And then once you're able to unlock the features, believe it or not, Veeam is capable of uploading that information up to the cloud, especially to Azure. It works well with Azure. I was doing a little reading this morning, and I found out that Veeam actually works well with Azure, but you have to have that license. So within the D drive, I have a backup folder, and that backup folder is what's telling Veeam to back up. So these are the two entry points that I have. Cool. And one of the things I really like about this software is that it compresses it. It has a software level compression that makes it extremely small. I love that. So now for Azure, this is it right here. I added a couple of virtual machines, actually VMware servers. And the reason why I added a couple of VM servers is because it really depends on the license that you have. If you have the free version of the ESXi, which is very limited on what you get, you're not going to be able to do a replicate backup, meaning you won't be able to do an on-premise backup. It works with the cloud version, which is weird. It backs it up to the cloud, but it does not back it up locally. It gives me a crap load of errors. And I looked it up, I Googled it, and Google is the same thing. A lot of people have been having issues. Microsoft has been pushing out a lot of patches, and it just does not work with the VMware at all. I'm getting a lot of recovery points. It's always saying the DPM error. I looked this up, and it's basically the permissions on the VMware. You have to create a specific permissions or user. I did all that. I gave it full rights, full permission, is able to do all that. But it won't create it. But it does if you enable your hypervisor into eval mode, which eval mode gives you that 60-day trial and gives you all the features. It still doesn't work to replicate the VM locally, but it does push out to the cloud. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys. Let's go inside here. I'm going to go to the Veeam Backup. And within Veeam Backup, I want to show you guys right now that it's going to load up, and it's going to tell me how many backup items that I have. And right now I only have one backup management server, and it's only going to show me one. Come on. What's going on? Let's see. Let's go back to dashboard. Click on here. There it goes. Okay, so let me zoom in a little bit. So within Azure, I have 4 backup items, and I have 1 backup server. If I click on that, because we use that credential file, it's registering that server, which is pretty awesome. If we click on it, you get a nice little menu right here telling you it really don't have too much. It takes a while for it to refresh information, but for the backup items on this list right here, it gives me a nice little view of what's what. I think the only successful backup that I've had with Azure is installing the agent within a machine, like a Windows 10, which I'm going to show you guys, and pick files and folders, and it backs it up flawlessly with no issue. I did have some issues with Azure Backup Server installing the agent within the client. I had to physically and manually do it. It installed it, but it did not register the Azure Backup as the service point. So it was really confusing. And the only way that I got it to work was reinstalling it and then doing a command prompt to point to the Azure server. So if I click on this guy, right now, this is a disk usage. It's 4 gigs. It copied 4 gigs, and I was able to do a recovery point For some reason, VMware and Azure doesn't want to create a recovery point, and it doesn't want to do a replica locally. And when you read online, it's basically because of the license, and it tells you to enable the eval mode for 30 or 60 days, and it does it. It looks like it does it, but it doesn't replicate it locally. Like if I go into, let's go with this machine right here, and if I look at the statistics of the data usage, there was information that was pushed to it, but for some reason, it's not doing a replica, and that sucks. It really sucks, especially if you are running VMware within your infrastructure. You need something to back up somewhere. So within Azure, I'm going to show you guys how to do a protection, because that's what they call it, protection. This interface sucks. It really sucks. It doesn't really give you good logs. The error, they have like specific error IDs that you have to go online, and then once you go online, you could check it out. But it's like really encrypted. They don't give you links to go to troubleshoot. So from the Azure part of the server, because these are the two things that I'm looking at. I'm looking into the VM and also backup. And VM is free, which allows me to do on-premise, and then the Azure part is on the cloud. Even though the Azure Backup Server does both of them. It does both cloud backup and also does on-premise, but the on-premise is not working as well the way I want it. So within the Azure Backup Server, it's really easy. You create new, and once you click on new, you're gonna get a nice little window. So let's we're gonna create one. Let's see if it loads up for me. All right, so you get the nice little welcome window right here. So I'm gonna zoom in for you guys a little bit. Awesome. And I'm gonna click next on that. You got two options. You have servers, you have clients. The client part is pretty cool because that's the agent one, which I'm gonna show you the agent with one of the virtual machines. I'm gonna do server, click on next, and it's gonna show you all the VMware servers that you have attached, and you could load up. There it goes. See? So this is my vSphere one, which I'm going to show you guys. Let's back up the Ubuntu, and let's click on next on that, and give it a name. So I think this is test 5. So TSR 014 test v5, right? And then the only options that you have is I want the short-term protection using this. That's the only option that you have. And you definitely need to keep this checked off if you want the online protection, if you want this particular VM to be pushed down to the cloud. So we're going to click on next. Awesome. And then from here, you got the retention range. By default is 5. I'm going to leave it. And then you have every day. You could modify that. You could add more time. It's up to you. I'm going to leave it as the default for now. And click on next. And then you have to have a disk. Got to make sure you add a disk, which I'm going to show you guys where to add a disk. Now, I added two partitions within this virtual machine, and I reformatted them as the REFS file system format for both of them. Gave them 200 gigs. This is where the replication is supposed to happen. This is where Azure Backup Server is supposed to make the copy locally and then push it up online. But for some reason, it's not doing that. It sucks. So I definitely want to get some feedback from you guys to see what you guys used within your infrastructure, because it's really daunting. It's like you want to find something that will work. Plus, if the client gives you a tight budget, you know it's really hard to find something with a tight budget and something that will work and something that's dependable. So there's a reason why I've been playing around with Azure to see if it works, because again, the client has an Azure subscription, so I'm trying to make it work for them. But I'm also looking into Veeam Backup and Replication. They have the free version, but the free version is very limited. But it also gives me what I want. It's capable of backing up, but there's a catch to that, which I'm gonna talk about later. So you're gonna pick your target, So let's pick E for now. Click next. And replicate in the DPM server. DPM server is your Azure server. You want to do it now, or you could pick it later. It's up to you, or you could do it manually. We're going to click next. And he's going to try to run consistency checks on the replica that has been inconsistent, allows DPN to continue protecting the data source. This is so baloney with VMware. It just constantly errors out. So I'm going to just do a run daily, uncheck that, and click next. Got to make sure, this is weird. I don't know, this software is really weird because I picked that I wanted this, but you have to pick it again, right? You have to select the data source you want to protect online. Didn't I do this in the beginning? The way that they built this software is really, really weird. I think that's why it's so free. Then you have to find the schedule where you want to create the backup copy. I'm gonna leave it as the default day and 9 p.m. and click on next. Then you have your online protection policy. This is really up to you. I'm gonna leave everything. I'm gonna uncheck everything because this is just for testing. But most likely within a production environment, I would definitely have the weekly as Friday, not Saturday, because Saturday and Sunday is not really a working period. It'd probably be like Friday night, late night. Monthly be at the end of the month, most likely on a Saturday. And yearly, definitely, I would do it like on a December. Click next. You could do an offline backup if your network is really slow and you think this will be a bottleneck on your network. You can actually do an offline backup. For now, I'm gonna do it over the network. Got a nice little summary. It's going to create the group. Once you create the group, you get 3 progress bars. Eventually, it's going to say success, which is a great thing. And then we're going to right-click on it and start the process. Eventually, you're going to see it here. You're going to see bj-ubuntu here. But I also wanted to show you guys the agent. Because I installed the agent on this guy right here. So let's open this up. And we are going to send Alt Control. We're going to log in to Batman. Awesome. And this is it right here. Restore. So this is the client. Okay. This is the client that gets installed within your machine. I think Azure Backup Server works extremely well if you are backing up file systems or if you're backing up SQL databases, right? Because you have that backup folder, that data file, that bin file, whatever. You can actually have your data protection management client point to that particular location and it would back everything up in the cloud. That works extremely well, but it doesn't work well with VMware. It does work well with Hyper-V because, again, it's a Microsoft product with a Microsoft product. You know, it's going to work well, right? But I did have issues installing the client. And the reason why I hadn't... The client did install with Azure pushing it out to it. It does push it out successfully, but it does not... It doesn't contact the server. So what you have to do is download the installation files. You want to call this guy out, which let me see if I could do for you. Let's right click in here. Nope. Let's see. Here we go. Awesome. So from here, you want to do is DP. I think it's called DP. Let me see. So this is how I got the agent to work. Okay, DP agent. Okay, you want to do a space and then the name of your server. So you hit enter. Once I'm gonna hit enter, and it's going to extract and it's going to point to the server. That's the only way that it will work correctly, because the server pushing out the client to the machine won't work. right? I think that approach that the Azure Backup Server does with pushing out the client is the same thing as SCCM pushing out the client, but it doesn't work well because it doesn't actually register to the server. So let's close that up. Okay, so it looks like it was successful. We're going to close that up, and we're going to go to here. And right now it's doing the replicate creation in progress. Eventually this is going to fail. But I'm going to right click on it and do is a resume Azure backup. Because I would like to see if it goes up to here. So let's refresh that. It's not there yet. It's not there yet. We're going to give it some time. But yeah, so I actually was testing this out within a ESXi. And again, I figured out that due to license, Azure doesn't like ESXi free. You have to have the full version with all the features enabled. And the only way that you could get that is if you're using a vSphere, a vCenter environment. So I say, hell, let me install the vCenter. I installed vCenter. I got an EXI. I gave it the license to open all the features up. I thought it was going to work. No, it did not work. I still received replica is inconsistent, and it just did not want to back up locally. It was pushing it out to the cloud, which is great. So I said to myself, I need to find a solution. I needed to find something else, and I know I read up a lot on Veeam Backup and Replication. I mean, it's very popular. It's free. Everyone loves free stuff. It's capable of downloading stuff on premise locally, which in my mind I see it this way. I could back up my virtual machines compressed using Veeam Backup and Replication into a partition or a network drive, and then I could have maybe Azure to back up to the cloud, right, using an agent. So I thought about maybe I could use both scenarios here, because I definitely want to have an on-premise backup and as well as an all cloud, right? So, and Veeam Backup makes everything, it makes it extremely easy to use, really easy to use. I mean, like, you attach your VM, your ESI or your vSphere, real easy. You just right click on this node right here and you add a server. You get the add a server dialog box. Eventually it's going to pop up. I've been running all this on virtual machines, and it's crazy because this machine right here that I'm on, it's running vSphere. It's running two databases because it's running the database for vSphere and it's also running the database for the VM. So this machine is really being used a lot. You put your DNS name and IP address, click next, add the credentials and SSL. One of the things I love about Veeam, you don't need to have the certificate installed. It automatically knows that it's not a trusted SSL, and it's going to prompt you, do you trust it? You hit yes, boom, it's added, and you're good to go. It shows you everything. But the bad thing about this is, like, okay, for example, this Bernardo is actually this guy right here. And my license is not it's not the fully blown license. It's the free version. So the free version doesn't give you all the goodies. Because it doesn't give me the goodies, if I want to back up one of my virtual machines, let's say I want to back up this offline one, it's going to error out. And it's if you do some research on the log, it basically says, you don't have the license. I did a little Googling, and it was like, you have to have a specific license. Your VM server is not licensed to back up. That sucks. That really sucks, right? So the only way to get around it is to go inside your VM server, enable the eval mode, right, for whatever days, I think 30 or 60 days, start your backup, let it go, and then you could go back inside the free version. I don't want to do that. So I want to know what you guys do. If you guys are running VMware Hypervisor, the free version, how do you guys back up your system? In the past, I've used Ghetto VSB, but the client wants to have an interface that they're able to see and give reports of what's failing and what was successful. I haven't used Ghetto VCBs. Wow, geez, it's been maybe 5 to 10 years. So I don't know if it's been upgraded. I haven't looked into it as of yet. Eventually I am. But these are the two services that I'm looking in right now. You have Azure Server Backup, which does the on-premise, supposed to do the on-premise, and it also does the cloud version. Veeam Backup, which is free, only does the on-premise. But the only problem is that your hypervisor needs to be licensed for it to grab that information. But it doesn't do it in the cloud. The only way it could work on the cloud is if you pay. So I'm always trying to find a free version. So I definitely want to go and hear you guys out and see what you guys use. So let's go inside the chat room. And I got what happened last week. Oh, last week a lot of stuff happened last week. What happened last week? I'm trying to remember. Last week on episode 13, Lucky 13, right? We was trying to upgrade our Windows 7 machine to Windows 10, and I pushed out the upgrade task sequence advertisement to the software center, and I was logging into a Windows 7 machine, and the Windows 7 machine had the advertisement, but it was not working. One of you guys had a great eyesight, and picked up that my SCCM was still loading. And I closed my SCCM console, and then when I tried to restart, it was taking forever to connect to the database. So I did some Googling around. I did a lot of troubleshooting, and it looks like apparently SCCM and having SQL on two different machines doesn't work well, which is weird. And that's the first time that I actually built an SCCM infrastructure with having the SQL not within the same machine. But I am doing a side project and testing that stuff out because it should work. It makes sense. I know Big R left a comment stating, what happens if you have those big companies that have like thousands and 10,000s of clients? You have to have a SQL server with its own resources. It makes sense to have the SQL database on a different box. So I've been, that's a side project which I'm testing out for you guys, and eventually I'm going to do a video and push it out to the channel and show you guys how I got this stuff work. But for now, the way that I got the SCCM working within my infrastructure was to back up the database, detach it, install the SQL server within the SCCM server, attach the database, reconnect, reset the SCCM sites. It was a pain in the butt, but I got everything to work. I was capable of upgrading the Windows 7, which I pushed out after hours videos for you guys, so make sure you check that out. Hello, Lucas. Hi, Jeff. How you doing? Big R, hi. Oh, Lucas uses VM software. So, Lucas, you use VM software. Do you use the free version, or do you use the expensive version, the one that opens the doors and gives you that replication and allows you to connect to Azure and take advantage of that stuff? I definitely want to hear from you, Lucas. So, Big R uses Backup Exec. I've actually used that within my 9-to-5 job. I use that for backing up my file shares and SQL database and everything. That software I use. All right. Okay. So Backup Exec 2010, you could use it for ESX. I never knew that. Definitely need to look that up. So I'm gonna take some notes. It's like, you know me, I love taking notes from you guys. So as you guys can see, look at that. I told you, problems. And it's because of this. See? Problems. Current vSphere license or the ESXi version prohibits execution for the required, because I have the free version. Now, if I disable that license that I have and I go inside evi mode, it's going to back up automatically. So I'm going to show you guys right now, because I have this guy right here is attached to the vSphere license. And this one allows me to back it up with no problem. And it's super awesome. It's a nice little GUI. So let that load up. And once it loads up, I'm going to pick up the BJ-Ubuntu. And I'm writing some notes right now because Big R gave me good stuff. So Backup Exec, because I definitely have Backup Exec. at my 9-to-5 job, and that's what I'm using to back up my file shares and everything else. But I never thought about using it for ESI, so I could probably do it for the client side. So I definitely need to test that out with my 9-to-5 job. So let's right-click on this, and again, it's all about license. Everything is money. You can never do anything free. And because I'm in a tight budget for this client, I definitely need to work on that specific budget to see if I could get it to work. Does this backup export the full VHD file or a different format? AD, I think that's how you pronounce your name. What do you mean? Which format? Which format are you? Which software are you referring to? Are you referring to Veeam? Because I believe Veeam has its own file system, and the only way that you could recover that particular Veeam backup is if you have the Veeam software installed. Now, if it's Azure, again, the only way that you could recover with a Azure backup is you have to have the Azure Backup Server installed to do the recovery. And then you have to have your Azure Backup Server attached to your subscription to do the recovery. Okay? Now, Windows Server Backup, this is one of the things I love about Windows Server Backup. It does make a copy of the VHD files, and I love the way it recovers. It recovers extremely smooth. I mean, at my 9-to-5 job, I have a couple of Hyper-V machines, and I have a crap load of virtual machines running in Hyper-V, and I use Windows Server Backup. It's a built-in feature within Windows, right? Take advantage of it. You have a nice backup tape system. You point to it. It backs it up there. Recovering is awesome. It saved my butt a couple of times. I love Windows Server Backup. It's free. It's already built in within Windows, so why not use it? Okay? It'd have been great if Windows Server Backup was able to back up VMware stuff. That'd have been awesome because it's been extremely easy for the client. I could just hook up a Server 2016 VM and install the Windows Server Backup features and roles and point it and done. That's not the case. All right, I'm using PowerShell script with disk shadow. Interesting. Can you ID? I think AD. I'm hoping I'm saying it right. AD is using PowerShell script with disk shadow. Can you leave me a link? Don't leave a link now at the live chat because the chat stuff disappears at the end of the show. But come back once the video is uploaded to the channel and leave a comment and definitely leave me some information on that. I would definitely want to see how that PowerShell and disk shadow works. Wesley uses Alto. Okay, I could look into that. That's another option. I'm going to look into that. Thank you, Wesley. I love when you guys give me feedback. I need to check the polls. Let's check the polls. See how the polls are looking. Oh, I only have one of you. Come on, only one of you guys. Only one of you guys. Only one of you guys did the survey. Come on, guys. It's just a baby survey. It's nothing hard. I'm going to leave the link at the chat. Come on. Come on, guys. Only got one person that answered it. And I guarantee you it was Big R. Is it Big R? Yep, Big R. Thank you, Big R. Thank you so much for answering the survey. But you guys, get your lazy butt and go answer the question for me. It's not that hard. It's not going to kill you guys. Big R says, if all your backups go down, then don't leave the house. You're so unlucky you would get stuck. Oh, this is so true. This is so true. But again, I make sure I have a strong backup. I make sure I have four backups. Cloud, on the premise, and then 2 backups, one on the bank and then off-site on another office. Oh, Jesse S. Jess, how you doing? Oh my gosh. Are you attending Get Geeked. Yes, I am attending Get Geeked. Are you going to be there, Jesse? Big R, one of the issues we have with using Backup Exec 2010 and ESX vCenter is linear restores. They only work if you back up to network. Oh, interesting. So you're not capable of backing up to tape. That sucks. If you want to use, Big R again, if you want to use tape, then you must restore the entire VM just to access the files you need to restore. Oh, wow. Okay, so Big R, my question is, does Backup Exec, what type of level of compression does it do? Does it really minimizes the footprint, or is it pretty big? Because, I mean, if your virtual machine is about 100 gigs, is it going to be a backup file of 100 gigs, or does it compress it to the way that it's easily recovered? Because that's my thing. I don't want it to back up 100 gigs. Like right now, this virtual machine is 32 gigs, but when I look at the final file, it's really compressed to megabytes. I like that feature. We got Jesse saying, on another note, in your future videos, would it be possible for you to do a video showing how to regionally settings during OSD and SCCM? What do you mean? Can you explain that a little bit more? I would definitely, if you could add a little bit more information to that. And what do you mean regionally? Do you mean how to take your OSD and push it out to different offices? Big R again, one of the interesting things I found out when restoring backups, you can open VMDK files with 7-zip. Yes, you could. Cool. Jesse S, indeed I am. You mentioned last year before that I've never heard of it. It was great. Oh, yes, it is great. I will be there this year. For those individuals that are living in New York, there's an awesome event called Get Geeked. I'm not doing an advertisement for them. I just attend to it doing media. They show all kinds of there's a bunch of crazy vendors that show out like very outstanding techie stuff throughout, what they're building or what they're creating for the year. Great place to go. I will be there. I think it's this month, but Jesse, if you're going to be there, we should definitely hook up. Not that way, but we should get together, talk, geek out a little bit. I'm definitely there. I'm definitely going to be there. So yeah, catch me if you can. We could definitely talk. AD, I think AD. I will send you the PowerShell script at the end of the live video, but I want a feedback if you have any. Thank you. And you can call me Eddie. It's much easier. Thank you, Eddie. I appreciate it. Yes, please do, Eddie. If you have a solution, I would love to test it out. You never know. I could do a YouTube video of it and give you a shout out. I would definitely. I'm always here to learn from you guys. So if you have a solution that you've been using and it's free, it's easy, by all means, don't leave it at the live chat, because the live chat stuff disappears on me. Definitely come back later when the video is loaded into the channel. Leave a comment. The comment will email me as a notification, and I will go back, check it out. But definitely. But again, it looks like it's going, and it's all about the damn license. Ugh, I hate software like that. They advertise that it's free, and all of a sudden, it's not really free. Okay. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really know. There's so many options out there. I've seen people do this. I've seen people back up their. I'm gonna talk about Microsoft Hyper-V, because Microsoft Hyper-V is mostly used for like enterprise corporations. I've seen a lot of corporations use Hyper-V a lot. They take their VHD or they take their Windows Server backup. They back it up. They take that file, and they have like Dropbox redirect that location where they drop those backup files and drop it to the cloud. And then those are big files. But I mean, they have like a huge bandwidth. So they're capable of doing that. And I've seen offices with 2 pipelines, one dedicated for backups and one dedicated for the users. So that's awesome. That's a great way to do it, especially if you're using Dropbox businesses. Take advantage of that. Another solution is CrashPlan. CrashPlan works really well too. I've used that in the past. It's an agent that you install on the machine, then you tell it which specific path you want to back up. I've used it for SQL databases. I tell CrashPlan to back up this folder that I do my nightly maintenance plan, like it backs up the databases. CrashPlan takes those files, those BAK files, and pushes it up to the cloud. Boom. There's so many options out there. But, which one is best? Which one is the safest route? I think using cloud and then using the on-premise backup, both of them is even. I don't think either one of them is better. I mean, you can't really compare them. They both work well. They both are the way that both solution is the way to go when it comes down to backing up your information. Okay? That's my 2 cents. That's how I feel. All right, so let's go back in the chat. It's like 3:56. We got 4 more minutes, and we're gonna end the show. We're actually gonna end the show on time. Holy moly! I get to go home early, even though it's gonna be a thunderstorm. So definitely need to rush home for that one. So let's go back in the chat, and we have Jesse. Jesse, if you built your image in the U.S. but need to deploy to UK, Hong Kong, and Brazil. Ooh, oh, you got my brain tingling. I got my spider senses tingling right now because I've dealt with this. In my last job that I used to work with, I used to do with a lot of deployments. And the way that we did that was, what's the name of it? We used the riverbed. I'm going to see. Let me see. We actually used a riverbed server. I think it's Riverbed Server. I think this is it. We used the Riverbed. It was like a switch kind of thing, and each office had a Riverbed. And the Riverbed, when you go inside the GUI, you were able to tell it which file you wanted to synchronize to each office. It was really the network part. I really wasn't really part of it, but I wasn't really part of the whole infrastructure with the Riverbed stuff. I wasn't, I just joined the crew as a deployment person, and when they told me how they were synchronizing their deployment packages to everybody and the OSD for all the offices around the main all the offices around every world, because it was like Puerto Rico, Texas, Florida, wherever. Hong Kong was one of the offices as well. They all had to have the same operating system, right? Same image, okay? And the way that they pushed it out is they used a Riverbed, and the Riverbed was what synchronizes everything to each office. So that's how I've seen it. But placing a Riverbed inside your infrastructure is going to cost money. But I could definitely look into it to see how that's going to work out. I don't know how I'm going to work that out. I could probably, interesting. I could probably have my SCCM, my home SCCM server, talk to my lab here. How cool is that? Interesting. I could probably do that. I could probably do that. Let me make a note of that. So home SCCM server to lab SCCM server. All right, we could probably do that. I could actually create the OSD within my lab and then see if I could push it out to my home. Something like that. That's what you're trying to. That's the trying to angle that you're trying to get into, Jesse. All right, let's go back in the chat. We got a few more minutes. We got a couple more minutes. Just check backups and drives to do hardware compression, and the compression ratio depends on the data. Okay, interesting. Hi, B. Sorry to ask a question out of the context. Could you suggest minimum specifications for a laptop I should go to create a SCCM lab? Off the bat, make sure the laptop Make sure the laptop has an i7 7th generation processor, has a lot of memory, because the SCCM server or the virtual machine for the SCCM has to have at least 8 gigs, 8 gigs for it to run well, because again, you're going to have SQL installed plus the SCCM stuff, and if you're going to be testing everything out within the laptop, you have to have extra memory. So 16 and better is awesome. A solid state drive, and have another partition hard drive. It could be a 1 or 2 terabyte SATA with I believe it's 5400 RPMs, something like that. Price range for that is going to cost you maybe a little over $1,000. So it really depends. So definitely an i7 processor, more than 16 gigs, two hard drives, definitely a solid state drive, and the second partition should be a big one, a 1 or 2 terabytes, because that's where you're going to be storing your virtual machines. And I recommend storing your SCCM within the solid state drive partition, and then your testing machine should be on your partition. Okay, so that's my recommendation. So Jesse, again, continue. Sometimes you have regional settings you have to set for other countries, like keyboard and language. See, that's when it becomes complicated, because so that means each OSD should be, it's customized for each region. I gotta see. I have to test it out. I gotta definitely test it out. And it's a good thing I have my lab SCCM, which is different than my home SCCM. So I'm gonna play around with it and see what I can do in my part. I don't want to promise anything that I'm gonna definitely have something out for you, but I'm gonna test it out. I written some notes, and I'm gonna test it out for you. Big R, we back up our entire interstate with 10x DLT tapes. Ooh, DLT tapes. Wow, it's been a while since I heard that. 1 terabytes capacity each. Ooh, sweet. That is for weekly full, and we use 2x tapes for day tapes. Ooh, sweet. Wow, it's awesome. Jesse Day, thanks for the information. It's a project I'm working on, and I'm not sure how to go about it. Many folks says an answer file. Ooh, yeah, answer file would be the way to go. Answer file would be a way to go, or you could customize the task sequence. You could customize the task sequence for each region, because depending on your boundary groups that you have within your SCCM. Now, if you have your boundary groups separated by region, you could push out the OSD that way. But again, I'm spitballing right now, so I'm just thinking right now. I'm just throwing stuff that I like. It's just coming up, but I don't really know. Theoretically, it should work, but I definitely have to test it out. All right, so I'm going to refresh. We're back over here. I'm going to refresh this guy. Yeah, there it goes. Yay. So, like I said, look at that, BJ Ubuntu. I'm gonna give a couple more minutes. I know I said 4 o'clock, but like I said, let's go here, and the replica inconsistent. This is the same problem always. But when we go up here, let's click on this and see if it did anything. Eventually, see, I got some information. Some information is being pushed to it, but who knows? But again, guys, I'm gonna end it right here. BJ, I've got an idea for the next video. Domain migration using ADMT, Active Directory. Ooh, Active Directory migration tool. Oof. I'm going to write that one down. ADMT, Active Directory. Active Directory migration tool. I've actually did some research on that, and I was planning to do a future video at the channel. But if you guys want me to do it live for you guys, I could try my hardest and do it for you, because I was planning to do a little bit vCenter, vSphere stuff with you guys for the next episode. But if you guys are interested in doing the Active Directory migration tool, I could probably squeeze that in for episode 15. Let's see what happens. How to migrate all users' emails, computers, and groups to another domain. Well, Big R, I'm gonna take your request for consideration. I could probably do a side video and push it out maybe next week for you. I would definitely do the research and see what I can do. You know, I love when you guys do requests, because I do write it down. Look at that, see? I do write stuff around. Like, see? Home server, lab server, ADMT, backup exec 2010, Al Tauro, I think that's how you say it. And then I have Dark Shadow with the PowerShell. Definitely hook me up with that later on. Leave a comment with that so I can check it out. But overall, guys, I'm going to end it right here because, I passed 4 o'clock. Overall, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video of ARM cloud versus on-premise backups with virtual machines. It's all about what you guys need within your infrastructure. I like to have both options. I'm still playing around with this particular client. This client does have Azure. I want to take advantage of what they already have. So I don't know if I'm going to go that route, because Azure doesn't work really well with VMware, and that's what the client has. They have a lot of ESX hypervisors within their infrastructure, and the problem is with that, they don't have a vCenter. They don't have a vSphere, and all their hypervisors is the free edition, and using the VM won't work well because the license. So it's gonna suck a lot. So hopefully you guys enjoy this episode. Again, episode 14. I think episode 14, the server room, every Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for all those individuals that joined in. Stay safe. I love you guys. Before I go, let's go back in the survey and see if you guys did anything on the survey. All right, I got 3 people. Thank you. Thank you for those 3 people. Thank you so much. See, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much again for all your supports. If you have any comments or concerns that you want me to see later on, or any feedback, come back to the channel. Leave it at the bottom. I have a couple of requests. I got Big R's request. He gave me a wink. I'm definitely going to look into it. And I have Jesse's request as well. Jesse, hopefully we could get together at Get Geeked this month. Try to find me. I'm the guy with the mustache, with the glasses. I'm there with the camera equipment, going around looking crazy, getting information for you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Thank you so much. Be safe, and I'll catch you guys on the next server room. Peace out. All right, so how you end this? I think you click stop streaming. I'm out of here.